Welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Ed Piscor,
I'm Jim Rugg.
on location in our very own studios because today is the day that we've been promoting for about a month and a half. Cartoonist Kayfabe, comic book Christmas in July, and we're posting this video a little extra early to remind you guys so that you have plenty of time to go out. Go to, is it freelibrary.org, something like that. We'll put a link in the description below where you can pop in your zip code and see where all the participating charter members of the free libraries, free local libraries are, where you can go drop some doubles. Bakers out there can drop their comp copies off and, spread the word about comics to the literate people in your neighborhood. Before we really get into the meat and potatoes, because Jimmy and I, we just got back early from dispensing of all of our comics. I had a long box in the back of my car, Jimmy, but But I want to invite you guys to like, follow, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell so that we can notify you when new vids are available. And the early bird gets the worm, man. If you are checking out the videos early, that gives you first dibs. If you see a comic that you like that we're talking about, you hit up that aftermarket and get the cheapest copies available. If not, you come across these videos a little late, even as early as noon. You might risk having to pay a couple extra dollars on eBay, Amazon, and your local comic shop if you could even find the comics we're talking about at all. And if you watch these videos to the very end, that will push our YouTube content out to a wider audience, helps us increase the subscriber base, and makes it possible for us to continue making videos for you guys on a very regular basis. So, Jimmy, without further ado, we're back. We're well-traveled in our neighborhoods, potentially seen some streets that you have never traveled down before, and you're a little lighter on comics.
Yeah, I realized that I hit the, like north of Pittsburgh. I ended up going north into Butler County and some areas I would describe as rural and finding some of these local lending libraries. And I realized you and I should have organized this better and switched like half of our books with each other. Because yes. I have a feeling that we ended up hitting different libraries is my takeaway from that. And if we had planned a little bit better, we could have probably had a little more variety dispersed more evenly throughout, these different neighborhoods in Pittsburgh.
Well, Jimmy, let's do it again in 365. And
I agree.
And continue this tradition. This is the first annual comic book Christmas in July, and it's going to morph and take shape over a period of years and get sharper and sharper. Dude, I ain't even gonna lie to you, man. I think I might even save up some Christmas decorations from this current season for next summer, dude. I'm certainly going to have a dedicated box put to the side where I can just save all the kind of doubles that come through the studio, and just from my own travels or digging through basement sales or bargain bins or whatever, and not realizing that I already have this or that. I'm going to, over the next 365, continue to accumulate my doubles so that, share them with the world. But as I was out there on my travels doing my thing, I realized I should be putting Street Angels into these libraries also. But listen, it's gonna morph over time. One thing that I will say, and I don't know about you, like going to Butler, it sounds like you were looking hard for the next closest ones or something. But when I took a look at the list, you pop in your zip code, there were 4 within like a mile, right? And there was one that I drive by all the time that wasn't on the list. So I'm like, okay, man, this is fucking cool, man. This is super fortuitous because I could hit up that one straggler that I always see. And the way that I come back, I could literally do a loop through town and end up where I can be en route to getting some groceries. So I could get chores done, get lighter on comics, and spread a bunch of those around the town, and be done pretty quick actually. And it turns out that little list on that freelibraries.org or whatever the fuck it's called, it's not quite up to date. There were 2 in the neighborhood that are no longer there, and I just imagine, the ones by the local ball field. I just imagine those little kids, if they're anything like I was when I was a little dude, like that thing, the owner didn't tear it down. You dig?
Yeah, I do. It reminds me of driving golf balls whenever like the poor guy was out driving and gathering them up. Man,
Right.
you would just unload on as fast as you could drive golf balls trying to hit that cart. And that poor guy
Totally.
driving it. So yeah, I imagine near a ball field, there's a lot of activities those kids may be doing aimed at that, at that poor library box. I also ran into one of them that wasn't on the map and realized like there's none right in my neighborhood, and I feel like I have a really good neighborhood. So might be one of those activities for the local readers in the neighborhood to put one together, because it's a shame not to have a library like that close by. I feel like I could be running like a bootleg comic shop out of that thing if somebody else wants to go to the trouble of putting it up.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man. I was surprised that there were a number of them in very close proximity, and astonished at the craftsmanship of some of these things, man. I ended up going to the the little league field where I used to play when I was in fifth and sixth grade. I haven't been there since that time, and they erected this giant green one, kind of in the shape of a baseball diamond. And there's a visitor box and a home team kind of dugout area. So there's one giant, massive set of shelving, and then two smaller pieces, and incredibly well stocked. The one side, it was all like key scholastic young people books, like key stuff. You know what I mean? I was thinking like, is this going to be like all remainder kind of materials that you see out there in the wild? And I even tried to curate a little bit to the region. And what I mean by that simply is that I had a whole lot of Mad Magazine doubles, because I got that collection from Alika Aseki from Maui Comics. So all the Mad comics, all the Mad magazines that I've had all my life, I kind of just went through, replaced some of the ones that I thought were, if some of the stuff Alika sent me was a little bit more warped or whatever than what my own stuff was, I would just take that out, replace it. So there was an NFL inspired cover within the last 10 years or 20, 15 years. So, made sure to have that one at the baseball field. There was a really beautiful one near the volunteer firehouse in West Homestead. It was kind of erected to look like a firehouse, and really shellacked and shiny and awesome. My thought was, I had that volume 1 of Akira, and I'm going to be stingy with where it goes. Like, it has to go to like the best of them, and the place where, like, I imagine somebody like gnarly would see this thing, man. And I didn't think that the baseball field was worthy of the Akira, but the firehouse library was a perfect home for that. And there's another playground not far away. There's a lot of foot traffic with people who are walking by there. And I would just love, we put that stuff face out so that
Yes.
you see that shit's so attractive. And can you imagine walking by and just seeing volume 1 of Akira staring you in the face? Like, even if you don't know what it is, it's an arresting image, man.
Yeah, I like to imagine that, like these places that I went like further north, some of them they really were very rural areas, like no sidewalks. It'd be like driving through the woods on a small road, and then suddenly you would come to maybe a little community area, and
Yeah.
that's where I would find them. And it really felt like book deserts, I think they call them, where there just isn't easy access to a local library or whatever. So it's amazing to think of, like, you could really stumble onto, the people that are into reading, especially young people, because libraries were like my lifeline before I found comics.
Yeah.
I like to imagine young readers going up to one of these things and finding Akira. That'd be the greatest day of my life for the first, 12 or 13 years of my life, probably, if that had happened. That's really cool. Yeah, I found a few that had like benches next to them where it was almost a whole scene that seemed kind of nice. I had one that I opened up the door and it pretty well arranged and everything, but on the right side there's a little cup and it was dog treats. So again, I imagine, these are used locally, I'm sure. Kind of cool to see that. And I would do the same thing like you, Ed, where I'm kind of judging like what's in there as to like, what should I put in here? And a lot of young adult kind of stuff. So, anytime I saw that, I'd throw in like a Plain Jane's, but also a mix. Like some of the libraries that I found, they would be all like young reader titles. And then other ones would be very mixed. I had one that was a warning: no religion, no politics, except for Bibles and biographies was the sign on there. But yeah, same as you, like trying to stuff, like if there were books that were facing out, if that made sense, try to make it look good. I took some pictures. I wish I would have taken more pictures of these things because, like you say, they're all uniquely constructed. I think a lot of times it'll be like a Girl Scout or a Boy Scout troop that makes these as like some kind of, probably earning merit badges or maybe a troop project, something like that. I think I saw one that was like a school. I think it was like a school project, some class that had done one. So it's kind of neat seeing the different constructions. I saw a couple that were like double units side by side. So a more literate community, I suppose, working those shifts. The other thing that I found is like sometimes they would be like right in somebody's yard, which felt kind of strange.
2 of those. Yeah, I did 2 of those just on a regular street, totally just an average neighborhood. And there's the little library right outside their house, man. I give them so much props because I don't know that I want strangers hanging out around outside of my crib. It's very nice that they, set things up that way. And, they're getting a bunch of comics put in there.
Yeah, it's different doing that. But you mentioned a couple of the libraries that you found that weren't on the list, and it makes me wonder, like, are these outlaw libraries? Is this somebody who decided they liked the idea and just put one up and didn't register it? Or I don't know if there are hoops to jump through to get one of these libraries sanctioned, but it does make me wonder if some people just see it and think that's a good idea. I'm going to put one of those out front.
Yeah, you could see the ones like 4 of the ones that I hit were charter members with the little placard. So I imagine that you pay some sort of dues and you get the little placard that has a URL and your charter number and stuff. But the one that the outlaw library, it was pretty cool because it had no fuss or muss, none of that stuff on it. But it said like something like lovingly constructed by, dad and his daughter or whatever, So like that was that one. The one by the firehouse was made by like 3 or 4 different, I guess, volunteer firemen. And I knew 2 of the boys, man. Like I actually played Little League with 2 of those kids, man. So that was cool to see. I bumped into some people I knew just while I was dumping these things. Cause you got to find the nearest place to park. And then you might have to hoof it a little bit. And this one kid I went to school with, he was a gig cutting grass or something. He's like, "What are you doing here, man?" and like I just explained, like, "Yeah, man, I'm putting some comics in these little library joints." So I spread out like 5 different rounds of complete runs of Hip Hop Family Tree, and then just a bunch of little doubles also that I just conveniently had. But this forthcoming year, like, I'm going to be extremely well prepared for that. You know what, man? I pulled some books from the libraries, man. I made sure to take a look at everything, see if there was something that interested me.
Ed, before you do the books that you pulled, I had one more note on this because we've gotten a lot of feedback, comments under videos and things like that. And one of the things that I've seen a few people post is they don't have any of these libraries around. So one, maybe they should spearhead building one. But the other thing that a few people mentioned is that they'll donate them to shelters or to hospitals, like children's hospitals and places like that. Those are great outlets for comics, right? Especially if you've got your doubles or if you have some that you think are suitable to spread out there and try to make some new readers. Like there are other places besides these libraries. And I feel like this comic book Christmas in July idea can be a whole movement to not just those libraries. If you don't have one of those handy, donate to your local hospital or shelter, whatever is nearby like that. Because I mean, it's the whole idea is like, let's get some new readers. So put them somewhere where people are looking for something to do, some entertainment, and see if any catch on.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. As this occasion morphs over time, it'll become what it truly is. And I don't expect that to happen for 5 years at least. There'll be little drips and drabs of innovation along the way. I'm looking forward to the Kayfabe audience who's participating in this, seeing, Cartoonist Kayfabe tagged in the mix, and seeing what their innovations are on the format, because we'll certainly adopt, some of that stuff. I don't know what that would be. And that's the beauty of it, right? Like, you don't know until somebody, figures something out and something that's very an interesting approach. But it is about spreading the word about comics. So even if you remember, like there was a image of Noah Van Sciver during the pandemic, like setting up a table outside of his crib, Like that's pretty fresh, that's pretty cool stuff. And we just had in the neighborhood, we had it's like an annual garage sale day.
Hmm.
It might even be a Pittsburgh thing in total, but there were like 50 cribs participating in that. And it's possible, like, our thing this year was last Saturday in July, but maybe it becomes a thing where it's like in July, do this, don't relegate it to a specific date. But I'm very comfortable putting a date on it right now, and urge the audience to go out there and share the wealth, spread the word. People have been already been doing it this past week and sending photos and shit, and it's really admirable.
Yeah, I really like seeing those photos. Those little libraries are neat. I like seeing them. I like seeing how like each one is apparently built locally. So they all look different, at least all the ones that I've seen so far. And it's fun to see comics peeking through those windows.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Comics face out. Like
Yes.
that's the mood. Just be super obnoxious about the shit, man.
So what'd you pick up? What'd you score?
I was hoping to come across some like paperbacks from hell type 80s goofball horror stuff, and I found none of that. But I got hold of like a Larry Niven joint that I've never read.
Cool.
I read Larry Niven and Robert Heinlein and Philip K. Dick, like middle school era. But The Long Arm of Gil Hamilton, never fucked with that. And this one jumped out at me, Web of Angels, because it's a cyberpunk internet joint. So, and it's also pretty old. So, like, let's see what they got right. Like, where they kayfabe the language of the information superhighway and stuff. And I always have little paperbacks like at my side here at the table, and just in between drawing, like read a couple of pages and then get back to business. Just a lot of these paperbacks to me are almost just like any kind of like a mainstream comic, where certainly the old comics that we grew up with, and I'm reading Tomb of Dracula before bed, so that Marv Wolfman stuff. To me, like the sketch of the story, the kind of arrangement of events and the sequencing is so sound, but it's just like that polish of like the dialogue and shit is like what's written for kids. So like that sketch of the story is a very inspiring element, and then you could just put your own personality onto like how you evolve the thing. And that's how a lot of these paperbacks read, it's like the best of pulp in the best sense of the word.
Yeah, absolutely. That stuff is it's genre work. Yeah, you
Yeah.
say pulp genre because it is written for, I hate to say readability, but those things are written fast and meant to be read. So yeah, that's good pickups. I didn't see a ton of paperbacks. A lot of what I should say, not the old pulpy kind of paperbacks.
Yeah.
Certainly there were a lot of soft covers, but the stuff that I saw, it would be kind of like hardcover novels. And like I say, a lot of younger materials. So there were some libraries that it looked like it's just kids that are pulling stuff here. So I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to see, as you say, how this evolves over a few years, because obviously comics are popular now. I think probably more popular than they have been in our lifetime in terms of like all ages and kids and schools and everything being open to this stuff. I don't imagine there's a lot of stigma from parents about if their kids pulling a graphic novel or a comic book now and reading it the way there was maybe when we were kids or previous generations. So it should be interesting to see what effect, if any, this has, this year and moving forward on these lending libraries.
It took less than an hour to hit 5 spots for me. All the stuff was relatively close. I had to travel across the bridge. It's a Scroll Hill territory because those two that were supposed to be local just like no longer exist, man. But
anybody outside of Pittsburgh's not going to appreciate that very much, but all the locals will enjoy that.
Listen, seed your own town, or the nearest town. If Butler happens to be the closest place.
I didn't have to cross a river to get there. So.
Yeah. You use the website popped in your zip, or like how did
That's
you?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. And I can't remember why we started north. I think we had to run another errand. I went with my wife, and I think we had to run an errand. And so that's why we started in that direction. And then, I mean, you can find these things, at least around here. I feel like you can find them all over the place. So, wherever you're at, whenever you enter that search, I found some, and I may run out and do a few more today. It's still, I'm kind of in the spirit of this stuff. So maybe get a few more in here on the last day of the month. Why not, man? I still have some comics to give out, so maybe I'll head closer to the city, like the north side.
That's the fun thing about it, man. It's just like leaving this morning on that mission. Feel like Johnny Appleseed, dude.
Yes, yeah.
You know, like I was stoked. I was chipper. You know, I was set up, man. Brought a bunch of waters with me. Was Had a good breakfast beforehand, and
Yeah, I liked having the extras too, like some of the doubles. I had a Little Lulu double, one of the Dark Horse Digest collections. Feel like that's a great book to pull out. If I'd have seen one of those, I probably would have brought it home with me.
yeah,
So it's kind of fun, just like you say. I feel that same energy of just like putting these books out there. It's fun to put Street Angel and Plain Janes, but it's kind of fun to put any of this stuff that I think is a good comic out in the wild. And yeah, hopefully it attracts a few new readers. I don't see how you could read Little Lulu and not be excited by it.
somebody's getting that Hercules Bob Layton miniseries.
That's funny too. Seeing some of the comics that people are planning to spread out. It is some hardcore Wednesday comics, but it's all over the place. It's old back issues. It's quite a collection. I wonder too, like if comics fans start seeing these pictures, if they start hitting up their libraries looking to score a few of these titles.
Yeah, but like don't be a schnurro about it. The same rules apply, man. If you take one, you gotta leave one.
That's right.
Like it's only fair. And the
Yeah,
whole point,
absolutely.
and the whole point is to sow the seeds of new readership and things like that, man. So there were definitely people who were talking that kind of game, but don't be schmucks about it.
And I wrapped up to break kayfabe a little bit. I got a head start on this. I was putting out some books earlier this week and caught a really great sunset the one night. We went out after got done working, went out in the evening, got something to eat, and then was putting books out till it got dark. And hopefully we'll share some of those pics too. I took a couple of those photos, but it seemed like a good sign. It's the comic book Christmas in July Eve, and it was a beautiful evening for it. So hopefully that bodes well for today.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. It was super fun going around, digging into parts of the town that I haven't been to ever or in a very, very long time. It felt cool. It felt proactive to leave a bunch of comics around town with sort of no agenda other than knowing that people are going to find this stuff. Perhaps in 365, when we go out and do it again, if you still see your comics in that thing, like you put the next round somewhere else.
That's right. Yes, keep consulting the map for a couple other libraries and move those down the road, those comic books, if they're around that long.
Yes, but once again, just want to encourage everybody, head out, go drop a couple comics off in your free little local libraries that are around your neighborhood if you have them, or find some other venue to share this great medium that we all love and adore, man, rather than bitching and complaining and talking about how there's no more readership. How do people find comics? This is the least we can do. Like over time, we'll put our heads together and figure out what else we could do for a comic book outreach. But right at the moment, this doesn't seem like a bad idea. So get your comics together, hit up that website, link in the description below, pop in your zip code, pop in your town, and go drop off some comics in these little libraries, man. Now, you might be surprised how many of them there are in your local town. There was somebody who said that within a 1 mile radius, there were like 6 of them.
Yeah, there's a lot more than I expected. So yes, do what Ed says. Good advice. Good advice for planting the comic seeds out there.
Yes, wholeheartedly agree. Jimmy, if you're good, I'm good, man, because we're both back in the studio. There are more comics that need a drawing.
That is always true.
What do you have out there, Jim?
Hulk Grand Design, Monster Madness are in comic shops now, and you can pre-order the treasury-sized edition, the collection of both issues, plus about 40 extra pages, including some very, very nice Hulk art from comics' biggest cartoonist. And I just turned in my print files. So pre-orders are open now. Order them at your comic shop, order them wherever you buy books, and get ready for a very nice Christmas present for yourself or for that Hulk lover in your life.
Red Room Trigger Warnings trade paperback is going to be hitting the stands in September 2022, man. That's my 10th solo book in 10 years, man. Super proud of that. And hope you guys show up to support that comic. Hit up any avenue you can to get your hands on that thing, man. I'd like to see those Amazon numbers get much higher, just like the Antisocial Network trade paperback. It is banned in several countries. It is banned in several comic shops. So if you need to, hit up the link tree You could order and pre-order these comics directly from Fantagraphics. And you could hit up my Patreon and read the comics right now, today. Jimmy, what else do we have out there, man?
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts and merchandise and fanny packs at the links below this video.
Another great way to support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Give them those marching orders, Jimmy. We're going to be on our way.
Read more comics.
Ho, ho, ho.